Let's catch up now with the Shadow Minister for Indigenous Affairs, Julian Leeser, who joins me from Maryborough in Queensland. Good to talk to you, Julian.
Great to be with you, Chris.
I want you to first up just give me your take on Pauline Hanson's comments on Channel 7 last night, suggestions that people are saying she's harking back to the White Australia policy. Barnaby Joyce denies this.
Well, I don't think One Nation is a serious political party where you've got the leader of One Nation in the House of Representatives and the leader of One Nation in the Senate not being able to agree on a fundamental issue of immigration policy. We in the coalition have been very clear. We're opposed to mass migration. We're for a values-based migration policy, and we're for a policy where we bring people in if we can house them. And at the moment, we are not. We're bringing in more people than we can house, and we need to have a link between the number of people we're bringing in and the number of houses constructed. That's a serious migration policy. Labor and One Nation don't have serious migration policies.
Your federal president and former Prime Minister Tony Abbott says multiculturalism has failed. Is he right?
Well, I believe Australia is a country with an Indigenous heritage, a British foundation and a multicultural character. That's Noel Pearson's phrasing. That's the phrasing Tony Abbott used to use when he was Prime Minister. I think what we need to do is make multiculturalism work better. We need to make sure that everybody signs up to our values. We can't have a situation in this country where people are running around our streets holding terrorist flags or the images of terrorists in our country. That's not on.
Yeah, so Tony Abbott, though, now has said that multiculturalism has failed. Your colleague in the Senate, Andrew Bragg, has said Tony Abbott is wrong. Who's right here, Andrew Bragg or Tony Abbott?
Well, Julian Leeser's right here, Chris. Julian Leeser, me, I say that multiculturalism is a good thing for Australia. It's part of our history. It's part of our character. And it's a very important part of our character, but we can't have a multiculturalism where people don't commit to our values. We need to have people come to this country, doesn't matter where they've come from, doesn't matter which God they worship or what racial background they are. If they sign up to our values, that's the key thing. That's what multiculturalism is all about.
Well, I tend to think you are right, Julian Leeser, and what you say seems to be the position that's been espoused by the Liberal Party for many, many years, including when Tony Abbott was Prime Minister. But if he's now saying that multiculturalism has failed, isn't that a problem for the party, given his status as the federal president?
Well, it's the parliamentary party that makes the policy, and it's our policy that we are a country with a British heritage, an Indigenous foundation and a multicultural character. The key thing here is that we ensure that our country is strong and cohesive and that we all sign up to a key set of values.
You're a member of the Australian Jewish community. You've been very active on some of the issues of social cohesion in recent times. What did you make of the report of the Special Envoy on Islamophobia and the Prime Minister's statements about this on the weekend?
Well, Chris, let's remember why we have this Special Envoy on Islamophobia in the first place. We have him because the government did not have the moral clarity to recognise the particularity of anti-Semitism. And so in order to somehow balance the ledger, they needed not only to create an anti-Semitism envoy, but also to create an Islamophobia envoy. And I think these ideas from the Islamophobia envoy are just dead wrong, particularly in the wake of Bondi, particularly in the wake of the Director General of Security's threat assessment that religiously motivated violence and politically motivated extremism are on the rise. How can you possibly suggest that those ideas be taken out of the definition of terrorism? The Islamophobia envoy just does not get it.
There's a problem here, isn't there, in false equivalence. Now, we all would condemn Islamophobia where it occurs. There have been precious few serious examples in Australia, but we always have to check ourselves against that horrific massacre in Christchurch, because that is the example that shines out to the world as to how horrible that hatred can go. But we've had no serious problems with Islamophobia in this country, but the government seems to be pretending there is in order to create an equivalence with anti-Semitism.
Well, Chris, you're absolutely right. We have to call out Islamophobia wherever it exists. I did so at the time of Christchurch. I've done so when Muslim women with their hijabs are beaten up in the streets, where men going off to pray on a Friday are beaten up. That is just wrong. That is not what our country is about. But, 15 people have been murdered in cold blood because they are Jewish. and we have had rising anti-Semitism off the charts the last few years. It is to the shame of the government that when they appointed the anti-Semitism envoy, and indeed you'll remember they delayed the appointment of the anti-Semitism envoy because for some reason this government, the Albanese government, had to be seen to balance the ledger. Now, I think this has been the entire problem with how they have dealt with anti-Semitism since October 7. They failed to see it as the serious threat it is. They failed to deal with it properly, and they've always had to do some balancing exercise to appease other constituencies. I think that's just wrong, and I think that they stood condemned for the Prime Minister's failure to deal with these issues seriously, particularly after Bondi.
I want to switch to matters involving your portfolio and the Prime Minister's trustworthiness. Here is Anthony Albanese at the Garma Indigenous Festival last year.
And I commit here that every single year that I have the great honour to be Australia's Prime Minister, I will be here and engaged with you.
He promised last year he'd be there every year as Prime Minister, but this year already, the first year, he's failed on the promise. Here he was last week.
Is this a broken promise?
You know what, Hamish? I haven't had a day off all year. And this weekend, in a few days, I'll be in another remote part of the Northern Territory. Garma isn't the only festival.
Julian Leeser, is getting to the stage where you listen to Anthony Albanese and you know he'll do the opposite to what he says.
Chris, this is a Prime Minister addicted to lying and denying. He lied about the taxes he's brought in. He lied about energy prices. Now he's lied about going to Garma. Australians cannot trust Albanese.
Incredible stuff. Thanks for joining us, Julian Leeser. Can't argue with that. Another broken promise.